Last year, in September, I ran the furthest I'd ever run. Well, not anymore, but at that point in my life. I remember being in year 8. And when I was in year 8, Washpool Street was the street I grew up on. And I would walk out of my house door at Washpool Street, 15 Washpool Street, where I grew up, 4715 Billawheeler represent. And I would try and run to the end of Washpool Street. And as I ran to the end of Washpool Street, my heart rate would go up and my sweat would start pouring out of my body and my man boobs would jiggle. And it was a terrifying sight to anyone who would watch that. But I would get to the end of 15 Washpool Street. Now, you got to understand, 15 Washpool Street, that's 15 houses. So like a street. And I would get to the end of 15 Washpool Street and I get to the old rundown butter factory. I can't wait to preach about the old rundown butter factory. The amount of times we would sneak into the old rundown butter factory at 1 Washpool Street, get to the end and, I'd be jiggling, I'd be shaking, I'd be sweating, I'd be a hot mess. And then I would stop running because I could not run. And then I heard someone wise say to me, they said, you know what, you don't need to like run the whole way. Just every time you get to a street post, you keep running. So it's like in your mind, you say, I'm just going to make it to the old butter factory. You get to the butter factory. I'm just going to make it to that stop sign. You get to the stop sign. You see the next street post. I'm just going to make it to that street post. And you keep going. And I'll get these incredibly terrible stitches. And each time I was picking up these lessons to learn. And then I heard someone else say, I was like, I get these bad stitches. What's your advice? And they're like, keep running. So eventually I would get these horrible stitches and I would train myself. I've got a stitch, but I'm just going to keep running. All of a sudden I could run 800 meters. And then the bike path. The bike path would lead to the Callide soccer fields. And I would get to the Callide soccer fields and that meant I'd run 1.5 Ks. And I'd run the 1.5 Ks. And I remember I used to, in Billawheeler, it's, old country town. So you can imagine most of the year it's dry and it's black and it's ugly and it's brown and it's just gross. There's no green grass. And I remember running past it one day and I was like, the grass is so brown. And I remember praying. I said, God, next time I run, I want it to be green. That week it rained, and the next run I went on, all the grass had turned green. It was unbelievable. I would get to the old Callide soccer fields. And then, if I kept running, I could get to the old bridge. Now, in one of the Billow floods, the bridge not burnt down, it got flooded over, and they had to rebuild it. I get to the bridge, I know that was 2 Ks. I'd keep running. I know I could get to the Lions Park. I know that'd be about 7.5 Ks. And from the Lions Park to home, that would be about half a K. So eventually I got to this point where I could run 8 Ks, and that was the first day I've ever run, and at the end of it I was dead, and I was sweating, and I remember sometimes I would get home, and I would just sit down on the shoebox. I don't know if you have a shoebox at your house, but my dad likes to build things, so he built like a shoebox. It's like, you lift it up, all your shoes are in there. It was a big box, it was really cool. Anyway, so you get to the shoebox, and you could sit on the shoebox. It was about sitting height, and I would sit down, and I'd be so puffed out, and I'd be like, this sucks. Why am I doing this? First ever run. Then after that, I got really unhealthy again because I moved to the Central Coast. And in Billawheeler, there was only one fast food shop. It was KFC. Now, that's pretty bad. I ate there a lot. But when there's only one fast food shop, there's not much variety, so you didn't out. But I moved to the Central Coast and I lived in Narara, so I kept on going to Erin and Macca's every time I went home from church, every time I went home from youth, every time I went home from worship training. Got fairly unfit again. But last year I said, I want to learn to run. So I started running. And then I got to 5 Ks and I got up to again. And then in September 20th, I went to Sydney and I ran 10 Ks, and that was the furthest I'd ever run. And I was not a pretty sight. I would have showed you the photos, but I'm not going to do that. Because just everything going on underneath my Nike sports shirt is not, Sydney Bridge Run. You're running, you get back to the Opera House, there's a big thingamajiggy. There's a big arch. You run through the arch and 50 million people are there handing out these medals. And I got this medal. And it's cool because it spins. Yeah, watch this. Watch this bad boy here, right here. Yes, Kai Maggie, watch this bad boy. and I hang it up. You couldn't see it? Too bad, too sad. Get a better seat. My message is called Mementos and Memories. I will hold on to this medal forever, and I'll hang it up somewhere in my house. 10 Ks is not particularly a long distance. In fact, I imagine, who's someone fit? Who's someone fit here? Any of these? Exactly, these three boys, Toby, Duggs. Actually, I don't know about Duggs because I've seen his Strava. Actually, no, sorry, I've seen Josh's Strava when he goes for a run. But I actually do think Toby could probably run 10 Ks. 10 Ks is quite an easy distance for some generally fit people. Where's that kid that always does where's Caden? Where's Caden? Caden, I reckon you could wake up tomorrow morning and run 10 Ks. It would be easy for you because I've seen you run 5 and you do it about twice the speed I do. I wish you had Strava because then me and Josh could compare ourselves to your speed. However, I'd feel very insecure about myself because how old are you? Ah! I'll keep it forever because to me it was a big deal. Here's the story I want to tell you. In the Old Testament, a bunch of people were in a wilderness. They were in the desert. And they were in the desert until they were going to get to their promised land. And eventually, they got to go into the promised land. And to get to the promised land, the border of what country is called Israel is a river. And to get to the promised land, you have to go from Jordan, which is a country, into Israel, which is a country. And the River Jordan is the border. And I've been to the River Jordan. This is the border between Israel and Jordan. So the country is called Jordan, and this is the Jordan River. This group of people want to get into their promised land. And they get to the river. And God says, I'm going to get you through the river. And they're like, how are we going to get through the river? And God essentially said this: the water's going to stop flowing and the riverbed's going to go dry. Can I bring up the photo again? This riverbed is going to go dry and you will walk across on dry ground. So essentially they all go to sleep. They wake up in the morning and the River Jordan's dry. So that whole sea parts, it's dry, they wake up in the morning and they walk across. And then God says this weird thing. He says this super weird thing. He's like, okay, I want you to pick 12 people. He says, pick 12 people. When the whole nation is finished crossing the Jordan into the promised land, the Lord said, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you all had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he done to the Red Sea for the Egyptians when he dried it up before and until all they had crossed over. He did this that all the people on earth might know that the hand of God is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. So you got this story. They're trying to get the promised land. God dries up the river. They all cross. He sends 12 people back for stones. And he says, okay, I want you to bring the stones. We're going to make an altar. We're going to make a statue. They line up the 12 stones. And when future generations look at the 12 stones, they'll know that we crossed the Jordan. "12 stones for future generations to look back on, and when they look at those 12 stones, they'll wonder, what are those 12 stones for? And they'll say, well, you know what? God got us through the river. The Valley TV was fun for a little while. We had 12 episodes. 12 episodes of the Valley TV that will be on our YouTube channel forever. And they'll be there for as long as YouTube exists. And one day, some of you will get married and you'll have children. Josh and Sienna are now married. And they might accidentally have triplets or something. Future generations will look back across. And they'll see those 12 random videos on our YouTube channel. And they'll say, what the heck are those? And we'll say to them, you know, there was this thing called COVID in 2020 where the whole world shut down, but the God got us through. I keep this medal to remember that even though I'm incredibly unfit, I made it through. The YouTube videos will stay up so that I always remember that when COVID hit, we had a backup plan. And even though it got boring towards the end, God did something with us. I wonder what river you need to cross. Maybe your river that you need to cross has nothing to do with COVID. I've got some ideas written down here. Maybe your parents got divorced, or maybe they're going through a divorce, and maybe that was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things you ever had to live through. Maybe they're going through it right now, and it's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to live through. And I'm willing to say that here in this room, because I know that 50% of marriages end in divorce, and I know you're not alone. There's probably 50% of people in this room who grew up in a single-parent household. Maybe your river to cross is bullying. Now, I get up here and I preach sometimes, and in school, I used to get teased because, you know, I had the jiggling man boobs and stuff. But I was never bullied so hard. I mean, I would cry and stuff, but I was never bullied so hard that I ever wanted to hurt myself or hurt others. But maybe in your life, you've been through bullying so bad that it makes you want to hurt yourself or hurt others. Maybe your river's a breakup. The breakups are awful. I've been through 2 of them. Did you come up? Maybe your river to cross is a friendship torn apart. I don't know if you have ever felt on the guitar. Love you as a friend, Jeremy, but I love you even more as a guitar player. And maybe for you, you've been through something like that. Or maybe someone you've trusted with everything all of a sudden isn't your friend one week. It sucks. There's all these different rivers. As a youth ministry, we got to go through COVID. God has now dried up the ground and we were able to walk through. And I want us to remember this forever. So I want you to sometimes go back and I want you to look at the YouTube videos and remember that time COVID hit and we still had, and there was like Valley Online, but we crossed through. But maybe you're going through something at the moment. Maybe there's a river and it's unbelievable bullying and you hated going back to school. And COVID was the best thing ever because you didn't have to go to school. But now that COVID's over, you have to go to school. And going to school is difficult because you hated school because you hate your teachers, you hate your friends bully you, and your best friend always turns behind your back and always gossips about you and you don't even know who your friends are. So you hated going to school. COVID was good, but now you got to cross this river and get back into school somehow and get back into living a normal life. Maybe your parents are going through a divorce, or maybe they went through a divorce. It's like this river. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry. Goodness, I am sorry. I'm so sorry. River. What the heck am I going to do? It's promised land over there. How do I can't get across. HSC, Year 12 students. There's a river. There's a river. There's a river. Where's Zach Bryan? Man, he'll get a 99. I don't care about him. There's a river. There's a river. Will God get us through? I think He can. know if you've ever heard of Jesus before. I talk about him a lot. But this I know. Every time I've gone through something and I've remembered that Jesus is with me, it's like in my mind and in my heart, the river clears and I'm able to walk through. And I hold onto those stones as like memories in my mind. I don't know if there's a river in your life right now. I don't know if it's making a decision to cross and be with Jesus. Because I tell you what, over here, all these doubts, all these confusions, you're like, I don't even know if I want to be a part of youth next year. I don't even know if I want to come back next week. I don't even know if I like this. I don't even know if I want to be here. You got all these thoughts in your mind. It's like, I'll go if my friend goes, but not if they don't. And it's like, you got all these thoughts in your mind. And it's like, it shouldn't be about any of that. There's like this thing when it gets to Jesus where if you cross the river and it goes dry and you realize he's all you will ever need and you can pick up the stone, you can remember that, you'll never need all that other stuff. If you're going through something, your parents have gone through a divorce, your parents have been through a divorce, it's like a river. What are you going to do? Remember that the grace of Jesus Christ, there is a peace that surpasses all understanding, that'll guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And when you remember there's a peace that surpasses all understanding, you shouldn't feel peace, but it dries the river. And you walk across. And it's brutal and it's real, and most of you are going through it. By the way, when the Israelites got over here, they went to war. A bunch of people died. They got exiled a few times because they misbehaved. Just because they crossed the river didn't mean the bad stuff stopped. But they were in the promised land.
I hope this cup would pass, but if not, you're still God and I still love you. I hope this storm won't last, but if not, you're still God and I still trust you. I still trust you. I felt the furnace and the lion's den. I've suffered judgment from kings and from men, but I won't despise the place that I'm in, 'cause my God can save me again. I hope this cup would pass, but if not, you're still God and I still love you. I hope this storm won't last, but if not, you're still God and I still trust you. No matter my season, your promise is sure. You'll push through the chaos. You'll show me there's more. I know my future is safe in your hands, 'cause you plan better than I can. No matter my season, your promise is sure. You'll push through my chaos. You'll show me there's more. I know my future is safe in your hands, 'cause you plan trust you.
Just with your eyes still closed, and while you're relaxed, I've just got one question. Is there a river that you need to cross? Maybe that river is to become a Christian. Maybe that river is, you're caught in the middle of your parents going through something. Maybe that river is an awful situation. Maybe that river is a bunch of doubt. Maybe that river is bullying. Maybe that river is whatever that river is. Even we're putting them all together. So whether it's you need to become a Christian or whether it's you need help crossing a river, it's all just one prayer. Does that make sense? So if this message has spoken to you in any way, I'm going to ask you to do something really simple with everyone's eyes closed so no one's embarrassed. No matter how old you are. If you're really old, like year 12 or whatever, make sure your eyes are closed. If you're really young, year 8, make sure your eyes are closed. And basically what I'm going to get you to do is sort of raise your hand where you are off the ground, sort of high, straight up in a vertical sense towards the sky, even if you're lying down. If there's a river you need to cross, I want to pray for you. It's going to be a very quick prayer. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to get anyone to open their eyes. I just want to pray for you because I believe prayer works. If there is a river that you need to cross, if this message has spoken to you, I want you to remember tonight. I want you to be able to look back on tonight and remember that night that I came to youth first week back from COVID. There was dry ground and you'll have that memory in a stone in your mind forever, and that memory will tell you that God can get you through any situation. You'll remember this night, you'll remember this prayer, you'll remember this song, but if not, you're still God. I still trust you. I hope this story. If not, you're God. I trust you. If you need to get through a river, I just want you to raise your hand right now. 1, 2, 3, go. So many hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Don't miss your moment. You can put your hands down. Dear God, I pray for every single person who raised their hand. I pray for people that want to know you, God. I pray you would reveal yourself to them. I pray for people that are facing situations where they're caught in the middle of family drama. I pray that ground would dry up and they'd be able to walk through and they wouldn't be harmed and the devil wouldn't have his way. I pray that you would, any work would stop now. I pray for people that are going through bullying, even hard times. Even if they don't believe in you, God, I pray for people who are going through bullying and hard times. I pray that they can cross that river. I pray for peace that surpasses all understanding. I pray you would move and speak. I pray that even right now, everyone who raised their hand will remember this night, 24th of July. 24th of July. It's easy to remember because the 4th of July, 24th of July. Pray even right now in their mind they'd be picking up a stone going, God, I know you're with me.